Department of Truth, Issue 11. We are still in the forest hunting our Bigfoot, but we also get a little history lesson and a lot of closure for some characters. Now, I won't go out of my way and say this is the best issue that the series has done. I think there's a lot of filler in here, especially in the form of the letter that Evan was writing to his family. Now, I don't think you need this much because it's about 7 pages of the book is this letter, so I'm only going to cover it briefly here. We saw in the last issue that he's just trying to tell his son, like, I wish I could show you something impossible and that the world believed me, but I know what happened to me, and I know what I was looking for. It kind of gets more tragic with the idea of, like, suicide and sadness and depression being played up in this old man, but, like, there's not much to the letter. That's it. It's just really nice to see that a book like this is taking these chances to try new things. Now, like I said when we did like the UFO book with that old thing, I read this digitally, so I don't know if like the paper we're using for like the actual letter and notes is different paper or it's like a scan to make it look like it's crumpled up and dirty. I'd be surprised. This does feel like the kind of book that go the extra mile to make it unique. I just don't know if that's the case. I still like it. So it's fun to see that. We see that the old man, his name is Evan, I do believe he's getting a little more worried now that like the government is going to track him and what that's all about, because he sees, Hawke, Darla, and Cole out in the woods there. He's just kind of following them from behind. And then we get into a history lesson onto how wild fictions come into existence. And what I think this book does a great job of exploring, because it seems very likely to me, is that all these kind of conspiracy theories and mythologies and stuff, they come from this belief of the, like, culturalization of white people. Like, white people created these things because they needed something else to believe in because they're white people. So it kind of starts off as like in like these olden times, when they say like Rome burned Carthage to the ground, like they believe like there's this wild man living in the woods, this like weird creature that he's like a myth of like unicorns and dragons and all that stuff, like this weird creature that nobody really knew. And then you cut back to like a future time there and you discover like these different like skulls different from like a monkey and a man, and you don't know what it is, and you're just like, oh, that's a gorilla. So in these times when we never seen these creatures before, there's like a wild man in the woods, a skull that doesn't match a human or a monkey. That's how we first learn about the gorillas. And then basically Hawke explains to us that like that's how it starts. That's how all these things exist. We're just like spreading rumors. People didn't know what an elephant or a giraffe were, and then we invented circuses. So suddenly all these rich, spoiled people were able to learn about these new creatures, and from that this myth grew, and you start to believe that there could be more different types of creatures out there, because if you were somebody who has never seen a giraffe before, that will come as a shock. So once you have that culturalization in that belief, suddenly there's a whole world of opportunity out there that can explore different creatures. And who wants to do that more than newspapermen? And when like the reporters like make a story, sometimes it can go like national and make headlines. Such is the case for this reporter in Scotland when they found like a log in the water, and like a surgeon took a picture of it and the newspaper put it around the world, thus creating the myth of the Loch Ness Monster. Because in this time period, we established like there's weird creatures all around, so the culture is waiting to see new creatures to come about. And white people in particular, they want to see what those would be, because white people, they're pretty like just simple in their style, so they go to these places where people have seen these creatures before, but they haven't seen them before, so they build a myth around them. Same thing in Everest, in the 20th century times when we see like these big footprints in like the snow, and we have this idea of like the Sherpas call him the Yeti, and suddenly international news calls it the abominable snowman. And then we cut to like 1951, and 2 guys in like the backwoods of America take a picture of a weird creature walking around, and then suddenly it's like Bigfoot is living in our backyard. And it's just like spiraling out from there. And then suddenly it's like, it could have been a hoax, but there's still that likelihood that something real did happen there. And I think that's a very fascinating idea. I really believe it's doing a good job of telling this narrative properly, because it feels very naturalistic. It's just like, yeah, okay, if we can believe gorillas, and then when we first see a gorilla, we're like, okay, that's just a new creature. We see creatures like lions and elephants, okay, that's just a new creature. And then we have this culture that's building up wanting to have a mythology and mythos of things. Sure, a Loch Ness Monster, a Yeti, all that stuff, it makes sense. And I don't think it's that insane that this is what the story would tell us. I think it's kind of cool. And basically, Hawke is still explaining, like, these things are dangerous and they have a lot of stuff that can hurt people. So I have guys working in Hollywood that, like, stop, like, Bigfoot from being portrayed as anything than a hoax or a gag or, like, played off for stupid, like, reasons. Because if the culture could see this creature as, like, a serious threat, things would become more intense than they already are. We see in the distance that Evan has his gun pointed at Cole, and it looks like he's ready to shoot him. And we learn that Darla smells the Bigfoot near, and we have to see what's going to happen there. So we see he pulls out the gun. He's ready to shoot Cole. Cole's nose starts to bleed. He's like, there's something here. We see there's something here. And we just cut out all the dialogue because we don't need it in this moment. We don't need the dialogue here. We just see Evan just turns around from the bushes. He sees something walking towards him. He starts to cry, and he has a face-on encounter with Bigfoot. Now, Martin Simmons' Bigfoot is very intense. It's got a very distinctive look to it. I can't tell if this is intentional, but there seems to be like an outline of breasts in there. Like, I just noticed that looking at the picture. And it's so, like, lanky and janky, and its hair is all over the place, and it looks like a monster. But I really like it. So Evan is staring at this creature face first. It's looking up at him. He drops to his knees. It's about to come attack him. Then suddenly, Darla shoots it in the head. And Hawke helps the guy up. He's like, how long have you been looking? He's like, 50 years. And he's like, well, that's a long time, dude. That's a really long time. But you found him. You found what you were looking for, and you got what you wanted. And nobody will believe you, but I'm going to tell you now, you did it. You believe it. You did great. Your hunt's over, son. You can go home. You can rest up, and the rest of your life is going to be okay. And it's great. And that is we've seen Hawke be this big dick throughout most of the book so far, but in this moment, seeing like the sympathy he has for this man, it's really powerful. And I like the portrayal of just like, we have pretty much 2 issues of this guy, I should say, Evan, and suddenly we just see like, we have his whole life there. We see, even through the notes, where it's like he's obsessed with this, and now he has his closure. Maybe no one will believe him, but he has his closure. And we learned that, maybe we shouldn't have let the guy walk away, and we should tell Lee this, but Hawke's like, just let it go. Well, we won't tell him. This guy has got what he wanted, and everything works out in the end for this dude. And I kind of like it, Cole's repeating a line that Hawke said to him earlier in the book, like, there's a time and place for morals, and it's like, yeah, you got a problem with that? Of course I don't. We did the right thing here. We let this guy have his closure, and it worked out for the best. So I love that kind of ending, and they just stand over the corpse of the Bigfoot, and they're going to have to cut it up and kill, and just like saw it in half and get rid of the body. That's a really weird way to end the book, but I like it. This has been a very, very fun read. And I just love the idea of delving into like urban legends and stuff, because that's the natural like progression of a story about these kind of things, is delving into that territory. And it does a great job of doing that. Just like the slow build of like, we didn't know a gorilla, then we didn't know a lion. Boom, Loch Ness Monster. Makes sense to me. In a world like this, that is a definite place that would go. And I think that the story that it's building up here is fantastic, and giving Evan his closure is really cool to see. This is just awesome. This is awesome. It just works so well, and the artwork continues to be this breathtaking spectacle that is so unique, so captivating. Everything about this book is just so compelling and fun. I think a lot of people should give this a read. Like, this is just the one where I think I finally clued in, like, okay, you're building up such a unique mythology for Earth's history, for the world's history, and this is just going into that area that I love to see, and I really enjoy what this book was. So that's really fun. It's insane, man. Bigfoot, crazy stuff. I really like that. And oh man, just gorgeous artwork. I think some of the best artwork of the series so far. So Department of Truth, issue number 11, I am going to give an 8 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.